Adesh this question. What are some red flags in a man that you should definitely be careful about? If you can unmute yourself before speaking, then we can hear you.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, for red flags,
Unmute yourself before speaking, then we can hear you.
yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, for red flags, I think when you're in a season of courtship, it's true that I wouldn't say that I would be best to talk about red flags before marriage, but if you're in a season of courtship and you're looking for red flags, I think one of the major things is if your principles do not align, the principles of the person that you are hoping to settle with and your principles must align because that is what you're going to carry into your family, into your marriage. And when your principles and your values do not align, it's already a red flag because then you're going to have disagreements on certain key things that matter for building a family and for building a life together. Now, another red flag is if this is on a personal level, is if you do not seem to be yourself around this person. If for one reason or another you are compromising certain things for this person or with this person, the compromising is not the same as meeting someone halfway. It's not the same as trying to be better. It means you are consciously taking a decision to change something about yourself that was not even bad. Maybe it was something good, and then you're changing this to please the other person. So it's different from recognizing something about yourself and trying to grow with someone. When you compromise your good values for somebody, that is usually also a red flag. So I think those are the two main things that we need to look out for because every other thing I believe falls under those two things.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to ask Gwen again the same question. Do you have any other specific things that you think could be red flags that we need to look out for as a single person before you make a choice of a husband?
I think Desh has said basically what I had in mind. But one thing too that I'll say is you also need to watch the person's attitude towards other people. Because there are people who, I mean, you can be the sugar that he drinks and the air he breathes and all of that, but the person's attitude, even towards as little things as a waiter in a restaurant, you know, you go there and then he just acts up arrogant, and then when you try to calm him down, he's like, no, but what she did was wrong and blah 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 blah. So it's really about taking time to observe the way he reacts with other people. And that's why I shared earlier that during the period of my courtship, we tried as much as possible, even though it was a long distance, to meet. And during those times of meeting, you go out. There's some people who, when they are courting you, they'll tell you that, no, I just want to spend time with you. There's no need going out and all of that, whereas they're actually hiding something. So it's
Mm-hmm.
very important to observe how he behaves, not towards you, but towards other people in the society. If he's a
Mm-hmm.
respectable person in the society, and
Yeah.
in fact, he's the character he emulates outside, it should also be similar to what you see inside. If there are two conflicting things, then you should really, put an eye on it.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you so much.
I just want
Okay.
to add a point.
Mhm.
There's something that happens regularly, and we ladies, we always give a blind eye. There's a tendency, and so many examples are seen. There are ladies who are in courtship with a man and preparing for marriage, but everybody around them is against that person. Their parents don't want that relationship, their best friends, their closest companions, and everything. Everybody's against that relationship. Now, what I want to say is, I'm not about to say that you just break up immediately. And since everybody is saying that, no, you just go. But if you take a step back, that's a major red flag. Probably there is something about that person you have to know before marriage, or God wants you to hold back a little bit and work on something. There are so many reasons, but
There we go again.
Okay, I think we lost her again. Her internet has been acting up this whole time. So before she comes back and finishes that point that she was going to share, I was actually going to ask a question in relation with this. I was going to ask that how important of a role does family play in marriage? You know, how what weight should be put on that? Because it's strange that she started mentioning that, because I was going to ask that same question about, you know, when you're about to marry, what should you consider looking at the family that you're about to marry and your own family? What weight should you put on that decision? Like, should you consider the person's family a lot or a little? Like, to what extent, what importance should you give to family? Gwen, you can answer that.
That's a very tricky question because different people have different ways in which they approach it. Like for my own situation, I mean, for me, I was fortunate that his family is, first of all, God-fearing, and they are very down-to-earth people. Now, the issue was about my own family, because for them, they did not have a problem. You know how when you're coming from the Northwest, our parents have a stereotype mentality about people from the Southwest. So at the point when I was, when we're talking marriage, then just that place where I had to introduce him to my family, I was asking myself, like, what's my mother going to say? Is she going to reject him? And all of that, all of that. But one thing I know for sure is that when you have the conviction that this person is a person that God has approved for you, every other thing will fall into place. Because for me, I prayed, I was like, God, I know that this is the person. I know that you have given me all the evidences and the confirmations. Now also confirm it to my parents. So as by the time I'm reaching my parents, just make the road very easy. So it was okay for me, and I decided to do that. For us, we had a very long courtship, almost about 3.5 years. But other people don't have that length of time. But the moment he started speaking in the line of marriage, that was 1 year to the time. So I introduced him to my parents as a friend. And then he intentionally on his part was keeping communication with my parents. So Gwen's friend, everybody was like, okay, Gwen's friend. So the moment that I came now as the person that wants to marry me, my parents were like, oh, okay, hey, this boy, he's such a gentle boy. Oh, I like him. That's the way I handled them. Because I knew at the back of my mind that they have a little something concerning, tribal difference. And that's what I'll just advise for any person. Like, definitely your parents have something to say, but also what they are seeing with another eye, you are seeing with another eye. In as much as you don't want to overlook what they are seeing, but you also have to pay attention. And if you see that what they are seeing is not also what you are seeing, you have the confirmation, you then should make this person to get close to your parents, let them observe his real character traits for themselves. And then I believe that is going to work out. I don't know. That's my own experience. I don't know about other people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Vanessa, do you have something to add about this family issue?
Oh, no, I don't think. I'm just
Okay. Okay, before I let Melly finish what she wanted to say, I think for me, when it comes to this family thing, I think it's very important. I think people don't pay a lot of attention to it as they should,
Mm-hmm.
because you're literally, for me, before I got married, I always said something. I was like, if I'm going to get married to a family where I get there and I realize that they don't like me, I'm probably not going to go through with the wedding. For me, it was very important for me to see that my in-laws are nice people and I'm accepted in that family, because if you're not accepted in that family, your life is going to be miserable. Not just your life, but even your future children's life, they're going to make it miserable. So for me, that was like the line. It was very important. So I think a lot more weight needs to be put on the fact that you're not just marrying the man, you're marrying the entire family, like literally. So you need to really consider the kind of family that you're willing to enter into, because you're not just bringing in yourself, you're bringing in your children, your unborn children are going to enter. We hear scandals these days, like things that happens in families that are just unbelievable from uncles, aunties. So it's very important. Okay, so let's get Melly's contribution. She was talking about that.
Mhm.
I think I rounded up, but the only thing what I was trying to round up with is that making a lot of excuses for the person's weaknesses is also a red flag. In relationships, we are supposed to make excuses for people's mistakes, or for people's mistakes, not their character. You cannot make an excuse. Okay, he's a proud man, he's rude, and then you give an excuse that no, but the waitress herself was not so kind. Maybe you're in a restaurant and he's rude to a waitress, and you excuse him, saying that the lady too wasn't kind. Then you do it over and over again. He's rude to you, and you be like, no, but I did not also speak well to him, or he was right. I did not. You get, those are red flags.
Yeah. But I think also at the end of the day, when it comes to, like I said, when it comes to making the decision, it rests on you. After considering all the factors, at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to have to leave the marriage. You're the one who's going to have to stay in the house. So the decision should eventually be between you and God. Once you have that peace, then I think you should go ahead with it regardless. So coming on, like basing off of this thing I've just said about you making that decision, Vanessa, what do you think? How do you think that you can say, I think I have peace from God about this man? What are some signs that you should look out for to know that this is a kind of confirmation from God? Because maybe sometimes we're never really going to be sure. But what are some things that you should look for to be at peace in making a decision to marry?
Okay. I'll just key in with the God factor you were saying. The first thing that I'll say is that it's good to have a relationship with God. Don't struggle to hear God when you want to make major decisions. Because I believe the same way that God deals with, the way God talks with Api may not be very the same way he talks with Vanessa. So if I have a relationship with God and I know how he talks to me, I think that same channel, it may just be how he's going to confirm my decision for other major decisions like marriage. So that's the first thing, like, do you have a relationship with God? Like, can he talk to you, and can you discern that this is the voice of God? Why that is very important is because I believe that relationship has to do with our emotions. And our emotions have a way of fueling our thoughts, that if you're not careful, sometimes in that place where you're already being emotional about somebody per se, you may be hearing your own mind or your own thoughts, thinking that it is God. But I believe that one of the things that can really help with that is when you have a very good relationship with God and you know how he talks to you. And that's the first place. And the second thing I believe so much in is having people that surround you who can give you wise counsel. I think it is very important. That's why you hear people talking about their mentors, their close company, might be just friends that can help you with wise counsel. Why? Because there are some times in life, I think personally I've experienced a lot of times in life that I'm about taking some decisions that without you knowing, sometimes you're making an error. But the counsel comes from the people that you can listen to, and their counsel guides you. So I that's besides the God factor, the counsel of the people you listen to can help you even in that in the process of making major decisions, including the decision to marry. Because just imagine that maybe somebody has gone ahead of you on the journey of marriage, and there may be something that you yourself you cannot see because sometimes we are clouded by emotions, especially we women. Somebody who is not in your shoe in that relationship may be able to perceive it and tell you that, just like we're talking about red flags, because of your emotions, you may be trying to cover everything, like Melly was saying. But now somebody that is sitting and is not in your shoe in that place, in that relationship of being emotional, can easily perceive those things, and just by the person's wise counsel can guide you. Sometimes it may not be necessary that leave the relationship, but sometimes it may just be that carry, because there's some things we need to work on while you're still single. So I think those are the two things that I can add in that place.
Yeah, thank you. I think they're very important, actually. Okay, so let me ask Charity this question as we begin to round up, and we have like just a few more points to talk about, and then we're going to round up. How do you think single people can put themselves out there? I know it sounds a little bit controversial, but sometimes, there's this stigma around, making it known that you are available to be married. Sometimes girls are ashamed to do that because it's going to be like, oh, you're trying to find a husband. But that's the truth. If we look at the Bible, Ruth got counsel. Vanessa just talked about receiving counsel from people. Ruth got counsel from an older woman, Naomi, and she told her, wash yourself, put on good clothes, put on some perfume, and go and lie at the feet of Boaz. That was like telling her, let him know that you're available for this. So how can you put yourself out there as a Christian person from the right place again? Because like we said at the start of the video, the posture of your heart is very important. It's not just about putting yourself out there. Yes, you don't want to be desperate. You want to still wait for God's perfect timing, but you want it to be known that this is where I am. I want to marry. I'm available. So how do you do that in the right way?
Okay, thank you, Afise, for that question. What I would say, because obviously, not as a single, I hear many ideas out there, but you should identify your personality. At times, I am an extrovert. At times, dominantly an introvert. So, what I can advise the singles out there is find out what you're passionate about and just involve yourself in those activities. I'm a kind of sports kind of person. So since I love sports and fitness and everything, I'll advise you to identify your passions and the things where you can easily express yourself and be comfortable. Because at times we get ideas of post your pictures on social media. That's where the hub is. That's where people get their spouses nowadays. But find what is comfortable with you and just be yourself. Another place is serving in the church. That's another place you can find yourself there and locate yourself with the service. There are many different ways to involve yourself. Try to put yourself out there as well, but along the lines of what you're comfortable with. Yes, along the lines of what you're passionate about and what you can bring out the best attitude of it. Don't go somewhere where you have to start faking your attitude or faking a character or a part of you that is not you. That's what I can basically say. Someone like me as well. I also like learning and involving in various online networks and professional networks. So I believe those are some of the ways I involve myself. This ministry as well is so basically just put yourself out there along the lines of how God is leading you in your purpose and what you're passionate about. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's very important to establish. Just do the things that that God has put in your hands to do. And also, I don't think I just want to emphasize that there should be no stigma, you making it known that you're available. You shouldn't make it, nobody should make you feel bad about that, ashamed about that, because I don't think it's a bad thing. Marriage is a good thing to desire. The Bible says marriage is a good thing. So if you're desiring a good thing, then there's no shame, in making that known. I think it's just the posture of your heart and the way, you make it known that is important. I wanted to ask Nadesh that same question. As a single person, how can you put yourself out there? But I think that we've lost her. So yeah, I think we've come to the end of this video. If any of the girls, Gwen, Vanessa, Melly, or Charity, have something they want to add before we round up. Do you have another point? We've been talking about, transitioning from the season of being single into marriage, journey to I do. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about this topic before we round up on the video?
I think I don't know if Vanessa was not here at the start, but I think there was one time during our private Arise Sister meeting, she mentioned some points about overcoming the pressure of being married, like when you reach a certain age and everybody's like, when is it happening? When is it happening? She mentioned some points on how you can overcome that pressure. I don't know if she can highlight some of the things she said. Vanessa.
Okay. Yes, the question is about the pressures of when, can I
Like
get the
in this
question again?
waiting season, when you're waiting to be
Yeah, please.
married, everybody's like, when is it happening? How do you overcome the pressure and, not to lose your focus?
All right. Okay, very quickly, I'm just going to say the first thing is that know who you are, know your identity, and the best way to know your identity is through the person that created you, because you will live your identity. So if you know that God is your creator and you know who he made you and what he calls you, it gives you a kind of self-esteem. And from that place, in every time and season, you're going to understand that my life is in the hands of someone who made me, and there's a purpose for this life. And so every season I find myself in is very important. So even if I'm single at this time, I know this is what I'm working towards. And because of who I am and what God has for me to do, why I live on earth. So it's very important to know your identity. I believe that when you have an identity crisis, it's an open door for a lot of low self-esteem. And so you can easily get pressured, especially with what people say. The second thing I'll say is that these pressures usually, sometimes it's not only external, we have internal and external pressures. So I'm just going to talk about might be internal pressures too, like you're just pressuring yourself, like other people are getting married. So how can you deal with that? I think it focuses more on knowing your identity, and even when you have those external pressures, like people telling you that you have to get married, one of the things I would say too is that feed yourself with right information. And how does right information come to you? Through the books you read, the things you watch, the friends you keep. And I'm going to talk a bit about your company. Your company really matters. For me, God has blessed me. I think that's one of the things God has blessed me in my senior season. Because when you have people that are thinking the same way with you, who encourage you, though they are married, they will encourage you that, what, just be in waiting and God will bless you rather than putting many other things in your head. It also keeps you going. And then the other thing is that, like I said, identity, you know who you are and what you're called to do in that season. I'm telling you that when you know what you're doing in that season and you're doing it very effectively, and you must not be perfect per se, but at least you're working towards what you know is right to be done in that season. I think it really takes your mind off certain things, certain pressures that may also be coming. So know what you have to do and keep serving. And then just there are many things I may say, but one thing I'm going to say is that know that to wait on the Lord is a blessing, because the Bible says, they that wait on the Lord shall mount on wings with eagles, and they shall run and they shall not go faint. And while I was just pondering the other day, some thoughts just came to my head, and that's the last thing I'll be saying about this. I was just like, wow, usually it's single sisters that I always in that place of waiting. I hear that men, when is the time, they just go and they get married. But when we're single, you're always waiting, like, how my wedding be? Some people already had that thought in their mind right from even when the husband has not shown up, and you're waiting for your groom to come and take you, and the wedding day, like all of us will have those ideas in our minds, and it's so beautiful. But one of the things that came to my heart that kept me thinking was when a friend shared a dream with me, and she told me that it was a friend's wedding day and Christ, our eternal bride, was coming. So I was thinking that, you know what, if Jesus has given me things to do on this earth, I'm just imagining that I'm just like, no, I'm waiting maybe for another season if he comes today. So it gave me a perspective of, while I'm also waiting on marriage, I'm also waiting on my eternal groom Like, it gave me that kind of perspective. So I was like, what if Christ comes today? Will he find me just in that place that, no, I'm depressed because people are getting married, I'm not getting married. Meanwhile, he has given me everything that I should be serving him at this point. So I think when I read also on the blessedness of waste, I was like, okay, it
Yeah.
encouraged me to wait. Yes, it really
Yeah.
encouraged me to wait.
Thank you
Yes,
so much, Vanessa. I think those are very important points. Anyone else has a last word they want to share before we run up? Okay. Okay, if no one else has anything to say. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that through this video you have been able to get some wisdom and some points that are going to help you as you journey through this season of being a single person and going into marriage. And like we've established, the most important things are just working on your purpose, not sitting around waiting to start your life at a certain point. Your life is not going to start after marriage. Your life is going to continue after marriage. So continue living your life even now that you're single, and don't be pressurized by society or anything else that makes you want to feel less just because you're not married, or if it's a strong desire that you have that hasn't happened yet. Like Vanessa mentioned, wait on the Lord. It's going to happen at just the perfect time. So thank you again for joining Arise Sister, and we'll see you guys in the next video.